Hey, folks, welcome to the Upland Forum, where we shine a light on leaders and innovators who strengthen our region through service and action. Today, I'm very excited about this episode because we're talking about something that impacts every single community, and that's safety and security. So, joining me is James Kuo, who I'm going to bring up here very shortly. He is the founder and CEO of LSG Protection Services, a company dedicated to keeping people safe, businesses, and events across Southern California. James has built a reputation for professionalism, leadership, and community partnerships. And today we get to explore what drives his mission to protect and serve our integrity. So, folks, please help me welcome James Kuo. How you doing, James?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me, Carlos.
No, absolutely. I want to give you guys a little bit of a backstory. I met James in an event that we were together, and I got to talking to him, quickly realizing, man, this dude is the real deal. So I want to get you guys to get to know him at a more personal level. So what do you say, James? We get started, and let me ask you right out of the gate. Tell us a little bit about your background, man, before I even talk about your business.
Sure, absolutely. So I came from the law enforcement background. Coming from the law enforcement background, I spent 12 years in law enforcement. So, it's really almost like second nature for me to transition into, the exploring the private sector world and getting into the security industry. And for the last 6 years, I've been in the private sector of the security industry.
And okay, so with that said, tell us a little bit about how this whole business came about with LSG. Tell us a little bit more about LSG, how that got started, and what's the purpose behind it.
Sure. Um, you know, when I was getting ready to transition out of law enforcement, it was kind of like it's a scary thing, right? We know where you know when you been going to work for such a long time for someone and you're clocking in, clocking out, and then now you're transitioning over to becoming a business owner. And it is a scary thing where, it is all the responsibilities falls on your shoulders. And so I have, luckily, a good friend of mine, we've been friends for a long time. And during that time of transitioning, he brought up the idea. I was like, hey, how about your background in law enforcement? Let's get into the security industry, and I think it'll be very beneficial. And with my background, to provide the services out there that many businesses needs.
Right.
And that's how we pretty much came about it. And here we are.
One of the things that I should have asked in the beginning too was what inspires your passion for security and public safety, man? Like, what drives that for you?
Yeah. It goes all the way back, and I'll give credit to a high school teacher I had. And when I was in high school, you know, when you're at that age, you're trying to figure out what path you want to take. And this is my senior year in high school, and I decided to take uh, a public safety class. And Mr. Winnington, I always remember him, and he's since passed away. He was a retired LAPD officer. And he taught us, the class was about general law enforcement. And that's what sparked my interest in law enforcement, public safety. And from there, I thought that was a good fit for me because it was one of those things where, at that time, I didn't think that the office setting would work out, would be appealing to me. It was more of like, I want to be out there. I love the action. Back in the days, I used to watch Cops. Those were the things
Right,
that,
yeah.
yeah, those were the things that, kind of like inspired me when I was, a teenager. And so that's how I got into law enforcement and eventually transitioning over to the private sector.
And and that's you guys basically do a lot of great things for our community, and it's you don't get enough credit. So I want to make sure I take the time now to really just thank you and the rest of law enforcement that's always out there in the community trying to make that difference. I've always said this too publicly, and I'll never hide behind this. Most people can sit back and criticize the way law enforcement behaves or acts, right? And you can't judge all law enforcement based on the actions of certain individuals, right? It doesn't work that way for any kind of industry, period. But what I always tell people is the difference between you calling being a back, a C quarterback or whatever you want to call it, versus these guys that are going out there is that the moment when they walk out of their homes, they walk out with the target on their backs. So it's a 50-50 chance, God forbid, that it's not that they will not come back and see their families again. Yet you have the luxury to complain about that and stay home and all of that. But who are you going to call? Most importantly, when something has happened, it's going to be law enforcement. So you guys don't get enough credit, regardless of what the media says out there, man. I know my household and a lot of individuals support you guys. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Carlos. And you know, my time in law enforcement, and it's really and I'll say this, I still have a lot of friends out there in law enforcement, and they're out there, serving the community every day, and it's getting harder and harder. And again, coming from the law enforcement background, doing it for a period of time where I know exactly how it is, and it's really it's a thankless job. And for all the men and women out there today, out there, serving the community, and I give them the tremendous respect of, keeping the community safe, and you know, and to be able to do it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I want to get back to focusing on LSG. So talk to us about, first of all, tell folks what LSG stands for, and secondly, what sets you guys apart from any other security provider here in Southern California. And also, I'm going to throw these little multiple questions on you. Talk about the folks you have dealt with, right? The different types of industry. It's not just you know the regular security mall kind of thing that you see every day. It goes above things like that, and that's what I want folks to understand in here.
Sure. So LSG stands for Lighthouse Security Group. Um, it's was a like I said, with my partner and I, we created this company, and I think what truly sets us apart is that we're very hands-on. We're very hands-on, and the reason why is because we look at it from the client's perspective. We're here to serve the client. We're here to serve the client, and you know, I, as as a leader, there's a and I'm going to say this, as a leader, there's a tremendous responsibility, and the way I operate the company is that I always say this: we're here to serve the client, number one, and number two, without the employees, the company doesn't exist, right? I look at it like that, and so what truly sets us apart is that we're very hands-on, with the client. We're here to serve the client, and we have to tailor what the client's needs, expectations, and wants are. But also, more importantly, it's education. It's educating the client in regards to the expectations, the needs, and wants. And it's our job as a security professional to educate, the clients, the potential clients, on all these mitigating factors and on how to do things, to tailor it to a way where, certain clients have maybe a big budget. They're more able to do, a lot more things. And then there are clients that have a smaller budget, the moms and pop businesses, and we look at every business. We treat every business the same, every client the same in regards to how can we serve you and what capacity do you have and how can we maximize the potential and minimize the risk.
And you know what? That's actually I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of the things that I connected with you on that aspect that in my industry, in my business, I don't have a cookie cutter system because everybody's different, right? Like you just said, everybody's budget is you may have a huge budget, a minimal budget, but everybody gets the same level of service and connection regardless of their budget. And I think that's right there alone, it separates you from a lot of folks. Unfortunately, it's also an industry where it's a lot of folks are in it just to make the money and all of that, and not go above and beyond for that white glove treatment for their clients, regardless of if it's $1 million client versus thousands of dollar client type of thing. And I think that's one of the things that I admired in talking to you originally, because it's like, okay, here's another different industry that has that same mindset, right?
Right.
Uh, So that kind of leads me to, you talked a little bit about this, but what does leadership mean to you in this high responsibility field like security?
I'm fortunate to come from a couple of things. I'm fortunate to come from the law enforcement background, and the reason I'll touch on that first. The reason why is because in the law enforcement background, it's very structured, very paramilitary structured, and um, that taught me to realize in order to have leadership, you have to be very structured. That's number one. And number two, um, um, this is, I think, the most important. Um, I grew up. My dad taught me to never forget where you came from. Your humble beginnings. We all come from some sort of humble beginnings. We all have our story. And as we progress in life, however big you make it, whatever it is, don't forget where you come from. And to have that, to be able to talk to people eye level, right? Where people can relate. Um, my employees, and I touched on this earlier, my leadership style is without my employees, I don't exist. Um, sure, I have to be fair. I have to, and sometimes if we have to discipline or we have to make corrections, we, no one wants to be the bad guy, but in order to, sh- I'm big on respect, and when I think it's a big thing when your employees respect you, and when something is wrong, and you make a correction towards them or to them, um, and they respect it, right? Because they realize, okay, you're being fair, right? And so I think to me, those are the biggest things to me, because to be able to relate with the employees and to be able to talk to them eye level and to be able to say, hey, look, I'm a fair person. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. And at the end of the day, we're all grown adults, and let's operate that way.
No,
So
that's a great answer, man. And I think there's a lot of leaders like you. That's where you get really good employees that follow that lead, right? You're leading by example. You're not treating people, lower because of title or anything like that, too, which is another great thing that we need more of, quite
right.
frankly. I know we're getting closer to the end of the show, but I want to ask you these two questions really quick, and if you can briefly touch on them, is what advice do you have for businesses that want to strengthen their safety and preparedness?
I you know I think to start off, to start off is always going to be, think about, if you own a business, think about what products are you providing, right? Whether it's services, whether you're retail, whether you're a warehouse, what products are you providing and what type of risks are there, right? And that's, to me, is number one. And from there, you always want to think about what are the potential risks. And sure, can we, um, I think one of the things that, many business owners think is that, well, it's never going to happen to me, right? It's
Right.
never going to happen to me. But at the end of the day, you have a business to protect. And you think about these things, and you think about what goes into operating a business, whether it's having liability coverage insurance. And if an incident happens, and I advise a lot of my clients and potential clients of this, think about this. If you have a claim, and obviously, you operate business, you have to have some sort of liability insurance for the most, excuse me, for the most part. An incident happens, you file a claim. Guess what's going to happen, right? Whatever the deductible is that you have to pay in order to have that coverage go through, or the rates are going to go up. So, think about those things. And then at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to have a security professional to go in there and assess your business, which is something that we do, to give you a vulnerability assessment, to give you some recommendations and things like that. And you start from there.
And folks, just so you know too, I'm gonna you can see below, that is their website, lsgprotects.com. Make sure you write that down. If you're a business watching today, please reach out and share with other business owners as well. And like you said, I mean, reach out to James to do an assessment of where you are, where you could be, where your potential flaws may be, and that's just going to save you headache in the long run. So really quick, man, I'm going to ask you one last question before we get to the end of the show here. But I always ask my guests is, can you share a moment that really reminded you why your work matters?
First thing that comes into my mind is my family. For me, I think that I'm very big on making my family proud of me, and to go out there every day to try to make a difference. For the longest time, I did it in the government sector. Now doing it in the private sector, it's essentially, it's not too much that big of a difference. But to go out there, my biggest drive is my family.
That's awesome, and I think that's to be said of a lot of us who family is always first. You know what I mean? In making sure that they're taken care of, they're proud of us, and making sure we're making a difference for them, for our future as well too. So,
yes,
my friend, we're at the end of the show. Any last parting words before we tune out?
I'll end with this. I think, Carlos, thank you for having me on today. And I think, what you're doing is very beneficial. And I encourage people that have business owners, or, whatever profession you're in, that you have knowledge to share, to come onto this forum and really, let's support each other, let's support the community, let's, educate each other, and, and to be able to come on here and to, to at the end of the day, support each other.
Yeah, thank you. So, folks, this is the end of the show. A big thank you to James Kuo for joining us today and sharing how LSG Protection Services is helping people and businesses stay safe across our region. So, it's awesome to hear his dedication to service, integrity, and leadership. It just shows you how strong values can build not only a company, but a community of trust and accountability. So if you'd like to learn more about LSG support safety for events, businesses, and organizations, please visit them. The website is on the screen, lsgprotects.com. Make sure you give them a shout out as well too. And like I said, just something as simple as getting your business assessed will go a long way to prevent you from a lot of headaches in the long run as well. So make sure, again, you visit them at lsgprotects.com. This has been the Upland Forum, where we share the stories of people and professionals who make a difference across the Inland Empire. I am your host, Carlos Garcia, and I'll see you next time as we continue to highlight leadership, service, and community here in the Inland Empire. Take care, folks.